Hey guys, it's Cam back with another video today, and today we have Aaron alongside us. Aaron,
Yeah, hello.
so similar to the last one, we're going to be doing a World Cup qualifying, discussion, and we have the groups listed here. We have missed the first two games, so we're going to be going over that, what our predictions are going to be, and either in this video, but likely the next video, which will be uploaded today as well. We're going to be discussing our Asian Cup predictions, and basically that'll be, just a little bit of an update if we have any new ideas about who will advance. But Aaron, up to you. Which group do you want to start, and who do you want to start off with? And we can get going.
Sure, yeah, we can start off with Group A, I guess. So
Sounds
Group
good.
A has Qatar, Kuwait, India, and Afghanistan. And as you can see, Qatar is first currently with 6 points, Kuwait with three, India also with three, and Afghanistan in last with zero. Do you have any thoughts on this group?
I think, so far, Qatar beating Afghanistan 8-1, that's about as expected. And I think that Qatar beating India 3-0 wasn't bad. India is a good team. Obviously, Carlos Queiroz got released. I want to hear your thoughts on what do you think about that, and what do you think about their Asian Cup chances of, repeating as champions now that he's gone?
Yeah, I think Qatar obviously had a very poor World Cup, and they did lose Carlos Queiroz now, but they did hire a new manager almost immediately. And yeah, they showed some good results against Afghanistan and India, and I think they could go far, but I highly doubt that they will win. I think they'll have to go on another miraculous run uh, to repeat 2019.
Y- Yeah, so they've hired the Awakra coach, Marquez Lopez, very quickly. That's what the move they made. Yeah, it doesn't
Right.
seem
Yeah.
like, he's just like a local type coach. It's tough situation to put him in with like zero practice. So I agree
Yeah.
with you. It's just a tough situation. I don't think I would be shocked if they can repeat. I highly doubt that'll happen, but um
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. But yeah, in terms of this group in qualifying, they should definitely make it out. They should definitely get first. Um, and yeah, I mean, second place will be a fight between Kuwait and India. And
absolutely.
currently in the standings, India are third, but they did beat Kuwait head to head 1-0. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and then one thing we should note is since this year there's more teams allowed into the World Cup, in previous years it used to be that the number one team in each group was guaranteed, and then the number two teams had to battle it out. But now one and two are guaranteed for every single group, so that makes qualifying a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I
Uh,
believe yeah, there are more spots. I can't remember exactly. It was like seven or eight plus one
yeah,
that qualify for the World Cup. I'm
yeah,
just double checking right now, but
yeah. I think I have the World Cup tab up. Let me actually switch to that. So we get six indirectly, seven, eight indirectly, and then there's a yeah, 8+1, I believe.
eight plus one. Okay,
Wow, that's a lot for Asia.
that
That's
is
a
a
lot for
lot.
Asia. Damn. Um, so I think we can move on to one of the more interesting groups, which is Group B.
Yeah.
Um, I think, just going over some results, Japan continues its great run with 5-0 wins over Syria, which was actually a pretty good win, and then a 5-0 win over Myanmar. Yeah, Syria, of course, in 2018 didn't come too far off from actually qualifying for the World Cup, so shows you a little bit of how much they've regressed. Um, we have North Korea in second place, which
Yeah. North Korea
nobody
making their return.
North Korea making their return. They beat Syria, or they lost to Syria, which was, a close game 1-0. I think, it's too early to tell if they're legitimate or not legitimate, but what do you think about that group so far?
Yeah. I think Japan will finish first, obviously. No doubt
Yep.
about that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think Syria should finish second. They got a decent coach, Hector Cooper. Um, he was the coach of Egypt in 2018 in the World Cup, and
Yep.
um, yeah, I think they got a couple decent players. They may not be as good as they used to be, but they kind of went through a rebuild mode, and I think they're going to be decent. And I think a lot of the results depend on how teams play in North Korea because that's going to be
Yep.
a very different experience. So we'll see what
Absolutely.
happens there.
I think also one thing I'm just looking at the picture here. So the March window, it looks like North Korea versus Japan twice. So that's a move for Syria. You know, they can potentially leapfrog North Korea by 6 points if they beat Myanmar twice and North Korea loses twice, which should be, I mean, that should happen. So
Yeah,
I think they'll be okay, to be honest. I think that 1-0 loss probably should be enough to send Syria through. Um,
yeah, I agree.
yeah, okay. I think that group is pretty simple. Then we got the group C, one of our favorite groups here, with Korea, Thailand, China, and Singapore, which on paper is actually like kind of a tough group because you consider Thailand and China made it to the final round in 2018, and Singapore is not bad. So to me, that was one of the tougher groups in the round two. But of course,
Yeah,
Korea takes, the two wins. They got an important win over China in China. That was big. That I think that pretty much, seals the likelihood that Korea will make it through to the third round. But what do you think? How was that group for you?
yeah. Initially, I was a bit worried because we weren't in the best form, South Korea, and yeah, on paper, like it was one of the tougher groups. You know, Singapore's probably the best team or the second best team out of the pot four teams.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like Korea took care of business, and Thailand lost 2-1 to China. And I think going into qualifiers, I thought Thailand would maybe have a chance, but they just haven't really been in good form. Um, but I guess the same can be said for China. They don't look very good. They're kind of like an aging team. Their coach has called up a lot of older players, and so honestly, despite both Thailand and China not looking very good, I think either team could make it. Either team could finish second in this group.
I think that's pretty well said. I agree with that. I think, um, China's always solid. Um, in the last Asian Cup, they made it to the quarterfinals before losing 3-0 to Iran. So they're solid. We have to see um, the window in March where I believe they play Singapore twice. So that should okay, that you can't really tell. They should be able to win those two games. But the June window will be more important. That's when they get Korea and they'll get Thailand. So they have to win those games for sure. Um,
Yeah, I think they will finish second in this group, but I'm not super convinced of their chances of making it to the 2026 World Cup.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think even with the 8 teams that are allowed in and the path will be a lot easier for Korea. Well, if Korea is able to finish in the top three, they'll probably be able to avoid Iran and Japan, which I would say is pretty big for all three of those teams' qualification chances, not
Yeah,
having it'll be our first year without Korea in Iran in a long time, which will be
yeah,
sad. That'll be very sad, of course, but I think we'll both have no problem going to the World Cup with a very easy draw. So hopefully that happens.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, Group D. This is the group I have not been paying too much attention to be honest. And I was kind of surprised to see this, where Malaysia has 6 points. Oman, a team that was able to beat Japan not too long ago, has 3 points. Kyrgyzstan has 3 points, and Taipei or Taiwan has 0 points.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
yeah. Definitely a bit of a surprise that Malaysia's first. they have a lot of they have some young attacking talent that I think really help them, and they have a pretty good Korean coach as well. Um, Kim Pangon is their coach, and
Mhm.
he's done a really good job with them so far. But yeah, I think they're off to a good start. They were down 3-1 to Kyrgyzstan actually, and they came back and won 4-3.
Wow, that's a great win.
So that was a great comeback win for them. But yeah, I still think this group is open. I think Malaysia's defense is a little bit um they I think a lot of teams can still score goals against them. So but I expect Oman to improve and yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this group as well?
I mean, how Oman lost to Kyrgyzstan, that's a little bit surprising. And the reason I say that is because, Iran recently played Kyrgyzstan, and I think the result was 5-1, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look it up as I'm talking, but it was a tournament in June in Uzbekistan where we had basically some like round robin games.
Right.
And as I said before, Japan went from losing to Oman. Oman, you remember in the last qualification, we thought Oman had a chance at one point to make it into the World Cup. Like that was a legitimate
Yeah.
conversation. Um, and yeah, the score was 5-1 Iran. So they went and I honestly do not think Oman was that far off from Iran at that time. Seriously, when Iran and Oman played in the Asian Cup, even in 2019, it was only 2-0, but Oman had a first minute penalty they missed. So they weren't really far off. I don't understand how they lost 1-0 to Kyrgyzstan, especially Kyrgyzstan that's given up 4 goals to Malaysia. Um, I don't,
Yeah, honestly, I just
I
think
don't
this
know.
group is one of the most even groups out of the qualifiers, and I think some credit should go to Kyrgyzstan. I think they've improved a little bit. I think they're capable of they're definitely capable of getting out of this group. I think it just depends on if Malaysia can stay consistent, and we'll see if that Oman loss to Kyrgyzstan was a fluke or if they're actually struggling. But it's hard to tell for now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think too early, a little bit too early. Like the first 2 games have, you know, you can't exactly tell what's going on. Teams might not be in their best form. And then when you give them, what's it? It's March. So if you compare March to this was an October window, right?
Yes, this was the October window. I think no, this was November.
Oh, you're right. This was
I think
November.
this was November.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. November. So anyway, November to March is still 4 months. Um,
yeah,
we'll be able to tell a little bit at the Asian Cup how these teams are, what form they're in, but still, 4 months is a long time. A lot can change. Um,
definitely.
but yeah, I'd be if Oman doesn't get through to the final round, that would be a huge disappointment for them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they to them they should definitely make it. But surprisingly, yeah, it seems like Malaysia and Kyrgyzstan they have a chance for sure.
Absolutely. So Group E, the only team to not have 6 points so far. The only group where nobody has 6 points. So we have Iran, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Hong Kong. Um, I watched the Iran-Uzbekistan game after halftime. Iran blew a 2-0 lead and it became 2-2. That's a
Yeah,
very big disappointment. Obviously, though, like when you compare Uzbekistan to Turkmenistan to Hong Kong, I would be shocked if Iran doesn't make it through to the final round. I think we are going to. Um, it's more like a pride situation where, going into the Asian Cup, how can you play better? And blowing an 2-0 lead to Uzbekistan is not exactly a great confidence builder. Um, with that being said, I think Uzbekistan is still a really good team. I think, in my opinion, they're the toughest pot two team, and I think rankings wise, they were the toughest pot two team. Um, you know,
yeah,
I think that's fair to say. I don't think they're too far off from Iraq. I don't think they're too far off from the UAE or Saudi. So, I mean, they could have been a pot one team on another day. So honestly, overall, 2-2 is not bad. Uh, again, I think it's Iran, Uzbekistan through, and it's just who's going to finish first and second, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. Uzbekistan are definitely the strongest pot two team, and they're definitely one of the teams that could challenge at the Asian Cup.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, as you said, Iran and Uzbekistan are just clearly there's a big gulf in quality compared to those two teams and Turkmenistan and Hong Kong. So I don't think there's any worry about qualification. And yeah, I think this group is pretty much straightforward. Yeah, Iran and Uzbekistan should finish top two.
Um, we should also note that the Eldor Shmoradov injury may not be as bad as expected. You know, some reports are saying that he might be ready for even the third group stage game against Australia, which,
Okay.
um, obviously we have to wait and see what happens with, less than a few weeks to go. I think they'd be pushing him back a little bit. They're like really pushing forward might be risky, and obviously he's not going to be at 100%, but at least they might have him for the knockout stage, so we have to see about that. And then it seems like they'll definitely have him for the March window, so not too much will change out of their team there.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. I think if he misses the Asian Cup, that would be a pretty big loss for Uzbekistan as their best striker and best player. Um, but yeah, if he can return by the third group stage match, that would be ideal for them.
Yep. That game in Qatar, of course, which we might actually be going to. But that'll be a side note.
Yeah.
Um, um, okay. So the next group is Iraq, Vietnam, Philippines, and Indonesia. I mean, I didn't really watch this group. Not really too surprised. Vietnam obviously made it to the final round last time in qualification. Um,
Yeah.
but so they lost to Iraq only 1-0, which is respectable. And they beat the Philippines 2-0, which is, again, that makes sense. I thought the Philippines and Indonesia were a little bit weaker than what they should. I honestly thought Indonesia could beat Philippines, but I guess not. Um,
Yeah, that was a bit disappointing from Indonesia.
yeah, and also the 5-1 loss to Iraq was kind of surprising. I thought they had gone better than that. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean I think these first two results have shown that there's still a big gap between Indonesia and the Philippines compared to Iraq and Vietnam. Vietnam actually lost on a 97th minute winner from Iraq, so that
Wow.
match was really close.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, those two teams should make it out of this group. I just think there's still a big gap in quality. So um,
Yeah.
as you said, I also thought Indonesia had improved, but it yeah the first two results for them have been disappointing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, yeah, not bad from the Philippines so far. But obviously, when you run into Iraq twice in the March window, we'll see what you're really made of because that's the toughest challenge for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Um, okay, so then we have Group G, which, Pakistan makes its return, I think, to internet. Yeah, I think so, right? They make their return to international soccer after a few years of being banned by FIFA. If that's
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Pakistan's always being banned by FIFA. It's like FIFA has to choose that one country where they actually like hold the rules, they apply the rules against, and it just seems like it's Pakistan. So that's kind of unlucky for them. Um,
Yeah, and congrats to Pakistan for making it to this point. I think this is their first time making it to the second round. So that's for a country like them, that's a pretty big achievement, I would say. But yeah, unfortunately,
yeah,
they're just happy to be here, honestly, compared to all the other teams. Yeah, 6-1 loss to Tajikistan, who I will talk a lot about later, and a 4-0 loss to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I think they're just here for the experience at this
I
point.
I totally agree. Yeah, I don't think they're a serious contender. With Jordan, obviously, there'll be a Jordan Korea game in Qatar. That'll be exciting to see how that
Oh,
goes. Uh,
definitely, yeah.
um, But I bring that up because I say I am a little bit surprised they lose to they only have a point, which is they only got 1 point against Tajikistan and they lost to Saudi 2-0. This is a Jordan that a few years ago was able to beat Australia at the Asian Cup. Obviously, comparing the Asian Cup to how teams are now is not really like accurate, but still I thought a little bit more out of them. I am a little bit surprised Tajikistan won 6-1 against Pakistan. That was pretty good. And then obviously the Saudis are the Saudis, they're a solid team.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Saudi Arabia should top this group. And I think second place is actually a really close battle between Tajikistan and Jordan. Uh,
Yep.
I did, I've been following Tajikistan a little bit recently, and um, I could go into more depth about that in the Asian Cup predictions. But yeah, basically, they got a draw against Jordan, which is, surprising. And I think them beating Pakistan 6-1 shows that they're kind of moved on from a bottom dweller team to kind of more of the middle of the pack. And I think they're just a
Yeah.
really young team that they've been improving slowly over the years. And I think right now they might have a chance at the next round.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that group is pretty wide open. Again, the March window is obviously that's the moment they have to shine. They have to get
Yeah.
1 point out of the games against Arabia, which is a challenge. If they get 0 points, I mean, then you have to go beat Jordan again, I believe.
Yes. Or
Uh,
at least beat them in goal difference somehow.
yeah.
So I think that 6-1 win is pretty huge. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think their match against Jordan will be very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next group, we have a lot of Gulf countries in this group. We have the UAE, which Iran will be playing at the Asian Cup, Bahrain, which Korea will be playing at the Asian Cup, Yemen and Nepal. Um, Nepal, thank you for coming. I don't know, man. Thank you for making
Yeah.
it to this stage. Congrats on that. Yemen, pretty much the same thing. Congrats on making it to this stage. Thanks for coming. Bahrain and UAE. Bahrain obviously lost to the UAE. They're both pretty solid teams. Could go either way, but I would be surprised, very, very surprised if those two teams are not going to the final round.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The UAE are definitely the best team in this group. And, once they appointed Paulo Bento, the former South Korea national team manager, I
Yeah,
think they've really improved in their form. And yeah, they're definitely one of the better teams in Asia. So, unsurprising there. And we'll see about Bahrain, but they should definitely finish second in this group.
absolutely. I think that's one of the more straightforward groups, in my opinion. It's just like one and two, who's going to be one and two versus, who's going to make it through. You know what I mean? It's just a more of a
Yeah,
positioning thing. Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. Do you have anything else to say on this group, or should we go on to the final group?
I think we can go on to Group I.
All right. Group I, so far, in my opinion, this has been the most surprising group. Um, in terms of results because I say that Bangladesh tying Lebanon was a shock for me. Lebanon was 3 minutes away, I think, in November of 2021 from beating Iran. So from that to tying Bangladesh is not good. Um, they also tied Palestine. Palestine only lost to Australia 1-0. In my opinion, most impressive performances were from Palestine, given the situation. They have no
Definitely.
resources. Um, I don't think your mind is really focused on soccer, and Australia is a quality team. So they should be proud of themselves so far. And we'll see at the Asian Cup. That's a team that, unfortunately for them, they got matched up with Iran, UAE, and Hong Kong. So it'll be a tough group for them, but they'll give it their best shot.
Yeah, honestly, very good result for Palestine, only losing 1-0 to Australia.
Yep.
And I remember in the last Asian Cup prediction video, I picked them to finish second. And in their Asian Cup group, and I don't think I'm going to be doing that again. But I do think that they're definitely not a bad team, and um, yeah. And going on to Lebanon, I'm just not very convinced by
Yeah.
Lebanon. I think when they play good teams, when they play, Australia, Korea, Iran,
Yep.
I think they play up to the level of those teams because they play very defensive and very organized. But once they have to play teams like similar to their level or worse, I think they struggle to score and they struggle to kind of create any chances. So I think it's really hard to judge Lebanon because of that. But I think definitely in this group, that draw against Bangladesh might hurt them in the long run.
Uh, totally agree. I think a lot of these windows are really interesting in that it's the same two teams in the March window. I kind of fun, kind of interesting that they played.
Yeah,
So we'll see Lebanon versus Australia twice in the March window. Um, if Lebanon can get a point or two, well, I guess a point out of these two games, that'll be good for them. But if Palestine can beat Bangladesh twice and Lebanon can lose twice, and the goal differential is significant enough, I honestly would give Palestine like pretty good odds of making it to the final round, which is kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I think I totally agree with that. Like that draw with Bangladesh for Lebanon, that definitely could haunt them in the long run at the end of the day. And Palestine, if they beat Bangladesh twice, then they basically just need a draw with Lebanon if all the other results are the same. So yeah, honestly, a pretty big result there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it actually. So they play 6 games in each group. So if Lebanon, let's say they win two and then they lose two, right? So we're saying they lose both to Australia and win the other two. That would get them to 8. So Palestine beats Bangladesh twice. That would get them to 7. So yeah, you're right. They would need to find a draw against Lebanon still. Um, so there's a little bit of work to be done for Palestine there. Not
Well, I think
completely guaranteed. Yeah.
if Palestine beats Bangladesh twice
Yeah.
and loses to Australia twice, and if Lebanon loses to Australia twice and then beats Bangladesh, and I think there's still Palestine's still ahead of Bangladesh, ahead of Lebanon.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're right in saying that it'll come down to the final Lebanon-Palestine match and whether
right,
Palestine can get draw. Yeah, so yeah, you're right on that. Which is not a bad position to be in, to be honest with you. Like that's better than they could have imagined.
definitely, yeah. Um, I guess they still have Palestine still has to play Bangladesh, and
Yeah.
but I don't think Bangladesh is very good. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how they tied Lebanon. Now I have to go watch the like highlights of that game, to be honest with you. I'm very curious how that happened. Um,
yeah, that's a really surprising result, and um, I guess credit to Bangladesh, but very disappointing from Lebanon as well. I think, yeah, I don't know, just they always play well when they have to defend against top teams, but
yeah.
against similar teams, they just don't really get results. I
Uh,
think
yeah.
that shows.
Absolutely. And, they challenged Korea even in the last qualification round, like round two, the 2023 qualifier, 2022 qualifiers. There was a point Lebanon was up like 1-0 at halftime in a game. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely remember that.
Yeah.
They just historically just give Korea problems for no reason, and yeah, it's just I don't know why, but
Mhm.
just something about that matchup. As a Korea fan, it's always annoying to deal with that game. But yeah, yeah, I
Um,
definitely expected more from Lebanon. Uh, and
yeah.
yeah, it's been
Uh,
disappointing so far, but they're definitely not out of it. So,
Lebanon has scheduled a friendly with Jordan in a week. That'll be interesting.
yeah, we'll see how they do in that one.
Yeah, we'll see how they do in that one is a good point. Okay, Aaron, let's see. We have Zoom is telling me we have a few minutes remaining, so we have about 9 minutes left. So let's think about anything we want to add on this one, and then obviously we promised you guys a double video day, so we're gonna get our next one will be focused on the prediction updates. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
anything to add on to this one? I mean, obviously here are the groups again. This is round two. I was just gonna show one thing. Can you see this screen, the Wikipedia screen?
Yes.
All right,
Yes, I can.
perfect. So this will be round three, and the reason that I think it's important for us to note, and round four, this is all new. You know, in previous years, it was two groups where one and two went through, and the third one would go to an internet. Well, they would go to a playoff against each other. Now, you know, as more teams are getting in, there's three groups, there's more teams, which hypothetically should mean there's weaker competition in, and the path should be easier. We'll see how the groups turn out. But what do you think? What do you think about the format in our last few minutes? Are you a fan of this format? Do you think there's too many matches? Do you think there's like an easier way to do this?
Um, I'm not really sure. I think we'll have to see once the third round starts. But I think overall, it's as a whole for Asia, for Asian football or soccer, I think it's good that there's more teams that have a chance to qualify, and hopefully it'll improve the region as a whole. So I think the new format gives a lot more chances for uh, sort of the rest of Asia, apart from the teams that usually make the World Cup. So I think overall the change is good, and I think it should help Asia improve. But we'll have to see.
Um, I totally agree. And the last thing being, I think, um, you know, we can talk about, you know, 8 plus 1. Do you have 8 teams in your mind right now that can get through? Just listing them off and
Yeah.
looking at this.
For now, I would have to go with Japan, Korea, Iran, Australia, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
So those are the five like kind of top teams.
totally agree with you on those five. Okay.
And then to add on to three more to that list, just based on current form, I would have to go with Iraq,
Yeah.
probably the UAE
Yeah.
and Uzbekistan. I think those are the three extra teams.
Um, I think I was pretty much gonna say the same thing.
Oh yeah.
My only teams to potentially look out for are, you know, Oman right now. Maybe if they get going. Uh, Funny enough, I'm gonna say North Korea because they do have World Cup experience, so it is possible for them to get through and go back. Um, Syria as well. They're not bad. If they get it going a little bit, they could sneak in somehow. Um, and then I'd say, but likely, I think the UAE will likely make it through with Iraq. I think those are the top two that should go through. And then the third one, their third spot might be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I named those eight teams, including Uzbekistan. And then I think the plus one could definitely go to those teams that you mentioned, like Oman. We even forgot about Qatar, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's
personally, I
true.
think I'm
Yeah.
still not convinced by Qatar.
Yep.
I would agree with you on Syria there. They definitely could have a chance. And there's some other teams that have, outside chances. And of course, there are a lot of factors like the draw, the
Yep.
third round
Yep. Yep.
draw, who
Yep.
knows? And
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll get some surprises and upsets. So that's the
Yeah.
beauty of football and Asian football or soccer and the World Cup. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think you know, when the round three draw comes out, we'll absolutely have a video ready to go on that, and maybe our predictions will change by then based on the draw, as you said.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Okay, Aaron, I think that's all we wanted to cover for this one. So last word goes to you if you have anything to add.
Yeah. Yeah, to sum it up, the third round of matches should be after the Asian Cup. So a lot can change between now and March. And obviously we got the Asian Cup. So yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that should be a good one. We're both looking forward to that for sure. Should be fun. Um,
All right. Thank you,
Alrighty.
Cam.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. And thanks for your time. And then we'll get on the predictions video right after.
All right, perfect.
All right. Thank you.